I'm Rudy Koski in Austin.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
And I'm Greg Grugan in Houston, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Texas Senator John Cornyn is taking on the big issues with us. We start first with the Biden administration's controversial tuition bailout.
I think it's a terrible message. It's bad public policy, and it's unfair to people who've paid their college debt off by working 2 or 3 jobs or just by conscientiously meeting their obligations.
If we don't do this, can something be done to lower the cost of education, lower the cost of interest rates? It just doesn't seem fair. It's too high. It's too costly.
Yeah, well, that's right. It isn't fair. Right now, the universities have no incentive to control how much money that people get indebted. This is an area that I think is ripe for reform.
On the international front, the Biden administration wants to bring Iran back. Why is that such a bad idea?
Well, because the Biden administration's got to be the world's worst negotiators. We saw what happened with the Taliban in Afghanistan, and in this instance, we know that Iran will still have a pathway to a nuclear weapon, which is the single worst idea I can think of.
The Democrats believe that the Supreme Court has given them the pathway to winning in November with the abortion ruling. Do you agree?
The problem with Roe versus Wade is the Supreme Court made a power grab, saying we're not going to let the people decide what the limits should be to abortion, which is admittedly a controversial topic, even within same families.
But people are upset.
So this is something I think that we're going to have continued conversations about. The legislature is going to have to revisit it now that Roe is no longer with us, and the voters will have a chance to express themselves and find some sort of equilibrium which they can live with.
Do you think more exceptions should be available in Texas?
Well, I'm pro-life, proudly pro-life. I believe life begins at conception, and so I'm pretty.
But rape and incest.
Well, I would make exceptions for those. I think that's probably where the vast majority of people are, but they're not for late-term abortions.
California is outlawing the sale of gasoline vehicles by 2035. Right path?
Goofy idea. I just think it's very impractical. It's, I think, frankly, unfair to ask, hardworking middle-class families to subsidize someone's purchase of an $80,000 EV. It's crazy. That's, of course, what the so-called Inflation Reduction Act did.
No doubt that there's a crisis on the border. Should the governor declare an invasion?
Well, that is a legal.
It's a hard word.
It's what it is, and I think in a colloquial sense, that's kind of what we're seeing.
So is saying invasion the way to go?
I don't think that solves any problem by calling it that, and it actually creates some uncertainty about who should be in charge of the border.
The United States continues to send aid to the Ukrainians in their fight against the Russians. At what point do we say, we can't finance this anymore?
I very much support providing them the weapons they need to defend their country. But the longer this goes on, I think there are going to be more and more questions. Where should we be spending that money? Should we be spending it there? Or should we be spending that money to build up our defenses in Asia?
Former President Donald Trump remains in the news. As we get closer to the next election cycle, would you like to see him run again or stay on the sidelines?
Well, I'm focused on the midterm election in 2022. And frankly, it looks like there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in running. And, the decision to run for president is basically making a decision to put yourself and your family through a meat grinder.
I don't think you're a hamburger, but have you thought about going to that meat grinder?
Well, there's
You're going to throw in your hat?
There's no. I can answer that unequivocally. I've been married 43 years, and I'm not going to jeopardize that by announcing for president.
How do you decompress?
I exercise regularly.
Do you have anything like you like to do a game of chess, maybe some card games, race driving, skydiving?
Kind of a boring guy. No skydiving for sure.
Well, President Bush did it.
He did. I'm not sure his wife, Barbara, was very happy about that.
Is there someone that you listen to music-wise that kind of says, that kind of resets me, makes me feel, all right, I can go?
Well, I'm kind of a Robert Roquine guy. There's a guy told me out in West Texas one time, he said, we like both kinds of music out here, country and Western.
Do you have a favorite song or anything like that?
The road goes on forever and the party never ends.
That's a good title. My one word from this interview is grinder. Stephen, what's your word?
My one word is a hyphenated one, old guard.
Greg.
Rudy, I'm going to go with measured.
And our discussion doesn't end. Up next, the Fox Texas trio puts what the senator had to say into the grinder. We'll be back right after this break. The Fox Texas trio is back to discuss our interview with Texas Senator John Cornyn. Stephen, do you think the senator will take a hit for being open to providing exceptions to any abortion ban?
Not at all, because while this is a divisive issue, while a lot of people are not for abortion, something like rape and incest is something that both sides have vocally over and over said that they are for, and I also think this puts pressure on Governor Greg Abbott, who's been silent on this issue. I know in your interview with him, he said, well, that was already voted on in the legislature, but your senior Republican senator from Texas saying that he's for rape and incest will raise some ears.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there's any pushback to that, being the senior Texas lawmaker and what he's having to say with that. Greg, can he continue to dodge the Trump question?
I don't know why not. Everybody else is. Look, I'm going to go out on a limb. He hasn't told me this, but I believe Senator Cornyn is part of that group that would like to see the return of Trump policies without the return of Trump. And I think there's just a group out there that believes there has to be consequences when you incite a rally and don't take responsibility. There has to be consequences for browbeating state election officials into changing election results. And there has to be consequences when you are no longer president and you take top secret documents back to your home in Florida. I'm going to guess this, that a lot of these Republicans who would like Trump to stay on the sideline are going to wait to see if the Justice Department keeps him on the sideline.
You know, it's interesting with the senator. He's considered to be a guy who builds bridges, compromises. But can he continue to do that regardless of what happens in November? Can he continue to be the compromiser if the Democrats hold Congress or if the Republicans hold Congress? Greg, what do you think about that?
Look, credit where credit is due. In a country where compromise has become something of a dirty word in a kind of burnt ground Congress, scorched earth, Cornyn was able to craft the first compromise bipartisan movement on school and gun safety in decades. So perhaps that is his role. It was statesmanlike, and I think he deserves credit for it.
Yeah, but Greg, he took a hit on that. Stephen, don't you think that that is actually being compromiser going to hurt him?
I mean, there's going to be a group of people who are going to call him out, say he shouldn't have done this, but in a time where people are saying that Congress does nothing, while you may not agree with everything that Senator John Cornyn does, something did get passed. And can you name how many things got bipartisan support in the Senate or just Congress in general in a post-Trump era? So yeah, he's a compromiser. Will that hurt him sometimes in a primary? Maybe, but I think he's safe in Texas.
You know, guys, he's really been active on social media, but I really haven't seen him out working neighborhoods. Do you think that that would help the candidates down the ticket if John Cornyn showed up in a neighborhood and started knocking on doors? Greg?
Depends on the neighborhood. I mean, that would probably work in West Houston, but it might not work out in the red hinterlands, the super red hinterlands. I was in Montgomery County yesterday, and look, that's a county that was 75% for Trump, one of the reddest counties in the great state of Texas. I'm not sure Cornyn helps any candidate there.
Stephen, is there some fracturing up in North Texas with the GOP up there, and could Cornyn fix that?
Well, you look at Tarrant County, right, where it used to be more red, and now, depending on the election year, it's turning purple. And so the Republicans are trying to make inroads up here in North Texas.
Another look at the interview can be found on our Fox station's YouTube sites.
And the conversation continues this week as we push forward topics on our social media sites like Twitter and TikTok.
Join us next week where on the Texas The Issue Is, we talk to State Senator Roland Gutierrez about his push to raise the age limit for assault-style weapons. We'll see you then, and let us know what the issue is.